Hello, welcome back to my video. Today's November 6, 2022, and today I'm going to be going over my second to last Senate predictions for the year. We are 2 days away from Election Day, and I wanted to make more videos, but I was sick with COVID, so that wasn't fun. But if you're new to this channel, in 2020, I got every single presidential election state 100% correct. Every single bit of the Electoral College was in my column. So, let's get into it. The colors I have on North and South Dakota right here mean safe red, which would be 15% or more. This would be 7 to 14.9%, which is likely red. This is 2 to 6.9%, which is lean red, and anything under 2% is tilt red. And it's the same thing, 15, 7 to under 2. So I'm going to get into it as quick as I can here, because I have the governor video to make as well. Safe red states are North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Kentucky, Kansas, Alaska, because the only two candidates are Republicans. Well, the top two candidates are, whatever. In South Carolina, Tim Scott is very well approved of there. So those are the safe red states. There's a couple states that are usually safe red, but technically not in that column for me. And I'll explain as I go over them. But first I'm going to go over the Democrat safe states as well. California, Oregon, New York, Vermont, Maryland, Hawaii, and again, there's a lot of other states here, Connecticut, Illinois, Washington, usually safe blue states, but technically do not meet the requirement for me to count them as 100% safe. Just because of margin-wise, anyway. So the likely Republican states, which is 7 to 14.9%, is Utah. I believe it will draw closer, as Evan McMullin got a huge portion of the vote in Utah in 2016 when he ran for president. And Mike Lee isn't as... I feel like Evan McMullin has a bigger picture in Utah than Mike Lee. Not that he'll win, it is a GOP state, but, Mormons are historically... It's one of the only times independents can get elected statewide anywhere, is in places like Mormons in Utah. So, I don't know. Evan McMullin got about 25% of the vote in 2016 in Utah, and that is by far outdoing any candidate in the past, 10 years in a statewide presidential race. And I do think that he will outperform his 2016 margins, especially since the Democrat candidate has dropped out and endorsed Evan McMullin here. Okay. So the other likely Republican states, Missouri, it's just over and over again. It's polling at 12%. Constantly I see the number 12 in these polls. Again, the polls aren't the only thing that matters, but numbers aren't actually pointing to a red wave here. And Bush Valentine is more liked among the Democrats in Missouri compared to other ones. I do think that they could at most make it a 7-point margin in between the two candidates, but I don't think there's a way that the Democrat candidate wins here at all. Indiana, same thing. We don't have any data here, and like I already said, polls aren't everything, but data definitely helps. We have two polls that made this a 3-point and 2-point race, but this was in the end of September, meaning it isn't even included in the averages anymore, or at least the ones I do. It could be completely disregarded, and the guy that's running, I believe, said that he will run for governor next? Or no, that's his colleague. Truth is, I don't really know how to categorize Indiana. It was pretty competitive in 2018, but this isn't 2018. This isn't the guy to compare it to. It was a safe state in 2016. It's just the only data in. I can't. There's no data. I really wish there was. If there was polls pointing this to being a close race, why isn't there any more? I don't know. I think a lot of what the media is doing right now is ignoring any good pollster. Even like 538, uh, they are only including the polls that have the GOP winning in their generic ballots. Because you'll see Democrats win a national poll by like 6%, and the margin won't budge. But then, like a couple hours later, I saw a poll that came out with Republicans +1, and even though Republicans were over that, it's the average still went up, and it doesn't make any sense how they're averaging out these polls. I'm not, trust me, I'm not full of copium right now. It just doesn't make sense how they're doing it. But whatever, I'm gonna go to the next likely Republican state, which is Florida. Obviously, if I was trying to cope, Florida would not be red here. I only have Florida as red because Marco Rubio is such a approved of candidate and he does well with Hispanics in Florida. I don't think he's ever lost a statewide race here. Like, he's always been a winner in this state. And it's gonna be the same thing with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis isn't gonna lose, even though Donald Trump is attacking him. Although that would be funny. That was a factor of Donald's actions. Sorry, I'm drinking water. Donald Trump is going to be running for president. Again, that they said he was going to, not that they, I mean, credible sources say he's going to announce a run on the 14th, which is very smart to announce it after the midterms. But maybe this will encourage some more early vote now that people know about it. I don't know. There's a lot of ifs in this election. If Pennsylvania goes red, Georgia probably will as well. Nevada will. Wisconsin will. North Carolina will. Ohio could go either way. I don't know. There's so much uncertainty because we're not getting nearly as much data as we were in 2020. But that does remind me, Iowa is also a likely red state, and that was my last likely red state. And I think anyone arguing with this categorization, whether you think it should be more left or more right, there's so many issues I could discuss with you why Iowa is exactly going to be this margin. But I don't know. Connecticut, obviously not a blue year. Connecticut generally has a couple points shifting towards it in the midterms. If you look at the midterms history for Connecticut, it's never a good sight for Democrats. And it makes me wonder, is Connecticut really a red shifting state? New York obviously is, but I mean, it won't be red anytime soon. All, my point is, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania will all be red in the next 6 years. Iowa and Ohio have already changed. Indiana is now locked. Illinois is now a likely state instead of a safe state. New York has a competitive governor race. Thing is, will the Rust Belt spread around the East? Will Maryland start shifting? Probably not, because it's completely different of an environment. But because most of their people are in the southern part of Maryland, I meant. So we're gonna have like people in Richmond and everything. I sound like I'm spouting now, so I'm gonna try and get this done. Washington, also a likely blue state. Colorado, also a likely blue state. Illinois, also a likely blue state. Again, you can't really argue with any of this. The best argument you can make here is that Colorado is a lean state because Michael Bennet isn't really getting above 50% in any of the polls, and a lot of the times, undecided vote goes towards Republicans. Is that different with this year? How are the polls going this year? I still have no idea because we're not getting nearly enough data. We used to get like 5 polls plus every single day in 2020 on the presidential level. We were getting like towards the end of October, we had SurveyMonkey releasing like 200 polls every day. We had Washington Post, we had CNN, We had Fox even making the polls, which they still do, just not as much. I don't know. But Colorado's a likely blue state. Now we're going to move to the lean red states, which I would call North Carolina. A lot of Democrats have high hopes for here. Early voting numbers aren't that great for Democrats, and obviously we know that that is going to be one of their key demographics this year. And if Democrats aren't turning out in suburban, the middle east part of North Carolina, then Democrats are kind of screwed. In 2020, actually, the only part of North Carolina that's actually blue shifted red in 2020. The west part of North Carolina shifted far blue, though, and that is gaining a lot of population. I'm not exactly sure why. It's the same thing with, if you can see my mouse, I don't know if you can, I don't think you can. But in South Carolina, the top left part of South Carolina also shifted to half the amount of Biden. So a lot of these, like, Democrats are gaining in white voters a little bit, while Republicans are gaining in minority voters a little bit. And that's so weird to say, because that doesn't make any sense. But that's just how it is. So, North Carolina, lean red state. Ohio, lean red state. A lot of people, again, can argue if it's blue or red this year. I see it being about a 4 to 6 point win for J.D. Vance. He's not well approved of, but he's endorsed by Donald Trump. Tim Ryan just got an endorsement by Liz Cheney, which is not necessarily a good thing. And Tim Ryan is leading every now and then, and he was the leader at the beginning of October, but now almost every single poll that's coming out has Republicans winning here. And this is the case with Nevada, and Arizona is also competitive now in the polls as well. If the polls are as wrong as they were in the Senate, as they were in 2020, this is set to be a Republican landslide. But the polls also show New York being competitive. So, should I believe them? I don't know. A lot of Republicans would like to believe the polls this year, and if you want to, go ahead. And the last lean red state is Wisconsin. Ron Johnson, just again, having a consistent 50% or more lead in the polls is enough for me to say it. Because again, for the 80th time, polls aren't everything. If you see a candidate constantly getting above 50%, there's really not that much room for undecided voters to flip anything because they're at 50%. And that typically is decently accurate when a candidate gets 50% consistently. They'll almost always win that. You wouldn't see Joe Biden get 50% in the North Carolina polls over and over and over. It was like 8% undecided still on the final day of election day, and a lot of that turned out to be Republican. Now, the reason you could call this a secret, Democrat ghost voters instead of Republican ghost voters, which the Republican ghost voters are the people that said they were going to vote for Hillary, but actually ended up voting for Donald Trump. The reason that could be the other way around this year is because Republicans or Republican voters have an actual reasons that they can vocalize to other people why they're voting red, and people can actually understand it. I understand it. I'm a Democrat, but I understand why they're voting red. And a lot of people aren't really being as quiet as they used to be. Democrats, on the other hand, most of them don't even know if they want Joe Biden to run again. And we're going to see a lot of upcoming candidates over the next couple of months. And I think if Democrats do good in these midterms and things are still bad over the next couple of years, by bad I just mean gas prices. That's literally the only reason Joe Biden has a negative approval rating, is just gas prices. But if gas prices are still that high, or abortion isn't reversed when we can put it in the law if we gain a senator or whatever, if we can't keep up on a couple more promises, Democrats are going to be screwed coming 2024, because they're likely going to lose Montana, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Ohio. All of those are Senate seats that we have upcoming in 2024. So, I don't know. I really don't know. Okay. Those are all of the lean states. Now there's two lean Democrat states here. Arizona, Mark Kelly having a consistent lead even when the undecided voters are making their minds up, Mark Kelly at least has like a 2 point lead in every poll, except for a couple of them, which are a little bit less. And in New Hampshire, same case here. There was one poll where Bolduc was up, but that was Target Insider, which is one of the worst pollsters I've ever seen. So, and then everything else is a tilt state. I guess you can see where this is going by now. Democrats have a tilt lead in Pennsylvania. Used to be lean for me, which honestly, just that shade of blue looks so much better than this nasty blue right here. But Dr. Oz is actually leading in a couple of polls. And again, polls are just way better of an indicator than people think because they've been wrong. Approval and Democrat opinions and early voting numbers in Philadelphia just show John Fetterman slightly edging out Oz everywhere, where Biden was not edging out Donald Trump. So he could very well have an improved margin. And again, ghost voters, I think, will be for Democrats this year. Democrats are going to do a couple points better in a lot of places than I expected. It is not. If Republicans get their hopes up, like they did after 2016, they're like, oh, the polls are stupid and the numbers are lies and all of that, then that kind of encourages them to go for voter fraud. It really is not an issue. I don't know. I'm just spouting now at this point. I really. I'm anxious, okay? Georgia is a tilt blue state. Walker only leading in a couple of polls here. Generally, Warnock has the consistent lead. And if Warnock doesn't win on November, it'll almost certainly be a runoff in January, which might honestly be the decision to the Senate because I have Nevada is a red state here. And I don't take that lightly. I've always had Nevada as the Democrat winning, but recently Laxalt is managing to avoid his previous abortion comments somehow, even though Nevada's probably the most pro-abortion swing state, which honestly is kind of weird to me. You'd figure it'd be leaning blue a little more than that. But, oh, whoa, I'm watching I just saw a crazy touchdown right now. Wow, that's crazy. Wow, holy Devontae Adams popping off. Sorry. I don't know. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm trying to do these videos as quick as I can.